There are bad decisions in life, like dating your ex again, ordering gas station sushi, or trusting a politician who says, I support the Second Amendment. But, but selling one of these revolvers? That's a whole new tier of regret. I'm talking about the kind of guns that don't just go up in value, they go up in legend. Guns with soul, history, and that sweet, buttery double action pull that makes you wonder why anyone ever picked up a strike or fired anything. Now sure, maybe you needed quick cash, maybe your cousin needed bail money, or maybe you just got caught up in some online forum saying revolvers are obsolete. But let me tell you, when you sell one of these 10-wheel guns, you're not losing a firearm. You're losing a legacy. Today, we're diving into 10 revolvers that you should never, under any circumstance, trade, sell, pawn, or temporarily loan to your shady neighbor Dave. From rare collector's pieces to war horses built for generations, this list might just have you digging through your gun safe or lying awake at 2 a.m., wondering why you ever sold Grandpa's blued beauty for a flat screen. Let's roll. Before there were six-shooters in every saddlebag and behind every saloon bar, there was the Colt Paterson. This was Samuel Colt's first leap into the world of repeating firearms, and let's just say it didn't exactly sneak onto the scene quietly. Born in the 1830s and loaded from the front like a musket with a caffeine addiction, the Patterson was a mechanical gamble that rewrote history. Early models were fragile, awkward, and required the hands of a clockmaker just to reload. But they worked, and that changed everything. With its folding trigger, open-top frame, and sleek lines, the Patterson was more than a revolver. It was the blueprint. It's easy to forget how revolutionary it was until you get close to one. Holding a Patterson is like shaking hands with the Old West before it even knew it existed. There's a kind of strange reverence that creeps in when you realize you're looking at the origin point of Colt's entire empire. Collectors today circle Pattersons like vultures on a desert carcass. Surviving examples command six figures at auction without blinking. Their historical significance, combined with extremely low production numbers, places them in a category few firearms ever reach. Rarity alone doesn't define it. The Colt Patterson represents the very beginning of revolver history, where innovation first took form. There's no other revolver that bridges the gap between flintlock fantasy and American firepower quite like the Colt Patterson. Holding on to a Patterson preserves far more than monetary value. It anchors your collection to the foundation of American revolvers. History never reloads itself, and when a Patterson disappears from private hands, it doesn't come back around. One mistake, and you're watching American firearms heritage vanish down the barrel of a transaction you'll never undo. Deep in the smoke and blood of the American Civil War, the LeMat Revolver made its mark in the hands of Southern officers with more ambition than logistics. This wasn't your typical cap-and-ball pistol. Designed by Jean-Alexandre LeMat of New Orleans and backed by none other than P.G. Beauregard, the LeMat was a battlefield oddity built to disrupt convention with both a revolver cylinder and a shotgun barrel wrapped into one beastly sidearm. The standard LeMat carried 9.42 or 44 caliber rounds in its cylinder, already ahead of its time in firepower. But what really turned heads was the secondary smoothbore barrel hidden underneath, typically chambered in 63 caliber, which could fire buckshot or a hefty slug on command. A rotating firing pin allowed the shooter to choose which barrel to ignite, making the LeMat a true dual-purpose monster. On horseback or in close quarters, it delivered one of the most intimidating packages of its time. Craftsmanship varied wildly depending on which version you found. Some were Belgian-made, some French, others Confederate-assembled. But the guts of the concept stayed the same: complex, bold, and absurdly cool. The LeMat is a revolver that belongs in museums, not pawn shops. Modern replicas exist, but originals have become legendary. The scarcity of surviving wartime pieces, combined with their outrageous design and battlefield roots, makes the LeMat a serious collector's prize. It's a revolver that defies explanation, both in function and form. Securing an original LeMat adds a piece of unfiltered chaos to your collection, straight from the boldest pages of battlefield history. You don't just own a LeMat, you inherit its chaos. There's a certain reverence that follows the Smith Wesson Model 29 when it's brought up in a room full of revolver heads. It's not just because it fires the .44 Magnum cartridge. The .44 Magnum chambering gave it brute force. Its status as the most powerful production handgun sealed its reputation. But the real magic lies in those early pinned and recessed models, where craftsmanship and authority meet in your grip. Introduced in the 1950s, this model quickly became the flagship of hard-hitting wheel guns. The craftsmanship on early examples is textbook Smith & Wesson, bluing so deep it looks liquid, checkered walnut grips that sit like they were carved for your hand, and tolerances that whisper quality with every click of the cylinder. The pinned and recessed features were phased out in the early 1980s to cut costs. But those earlier models represent a time when Smith & Wesson was swinging for perfection, not just mass production. Collectors target these variants because they check all the boxes: aesthetics, power, historical relevance, and mechanical precision. And while pop culture certainly gave it a spotlight, the Model 29 earned its place on merit long before any film reel started spinning. Examples in excellent condition, especially with original boxes and paperwork, continue to climb in value. Collectors hold on to the Model 29 not out of habit, but because its legacy leaves a mark no successor ever quite matches. Selling one may fill your wallet, but it leaves a hole in your collection that nothing else can patch. And every time you see one in a glass case with a 4-digit price tag, that hole gets just a little deeper. Precision in revolver design took a leap when the Freedom Arms Model 83 entered the scene. Machined in Wyoming with a level of detail that borders on obsessive, this revolver represents a different breed of craftsmanship. The design avoids flashy styling and gimmicks, focusing entirely on rugged accuracy and mechanical perfection. Forged from stainless steel and engineered to handle Magnum-level punishment with zero compromise. Every corner, cut, and component screams intent. The Model 83's reputation was built around the 454 Castle cartridge, a caliber that introduced a new standard of handgun power when it came to velocity, energy, and penetration. Combined with a 5-shot cylinder, tight lockup, and a bank vault feel to its tolerances, the premier-grade version of the 83 feels engineered more like a precision instrument than a standard production revolver. The barrel-to-cylinder gap is cut with such precision it barely allows light through, and the trigger breaks with a snap that rivals precision rifles. Production numbers remain limited, and Freedom Arms doesn't mass-produce anything. Each unit is individually fitted and finished to standards that appeal to serious shooters and collectors alike. Adjustable sights, clean single-action brake, and consistent chamber-to-barrel alignment turn the 83 into a revolver that often outshoots its owners. It rewards skill and punishes sloppy handling without apology. In the collector market, the premier-grade versions with factory papers and presentation cases hold exceptional value. The combination of low-volume manufacturing, extreme durability, and a no-nonsense performance has turned this revolver into a sought-after classic with long-term investment appeal. It belongs in a climate-controlled safe next to the best of the best, not in a listing on Gunbroker. Every square inch of this revolver says, "Don't sell me," and that voice only gets louder with time. Military revolvers rarely blend history, innovation, and battlefield grit as completely as the Webley Mk VI, standard issue for British forces during the First World War and well into the Second. And this top-rake six-shooter chambers the original 455 Webley cartridge, a round built for close-quarters effectiveness and stopping power under trench conditions. Simplicity, brute force, and elegant engineering collided in this revolver's DNA. First issued in 1915, the Mk VI featured a 6-inch barrel, oversized grips, and a star-shaped automatic extractor system that flung out spent cases the moment the action broke open. Built like a tank with British flair, it quickly gained a reputation for reliability under mud, rain, and abuse. Soldiers trusted it with their lives, and many carried it beyond their tours. Its sights were practical, its grip shape natural, and its balance shockingly manageable for its bulk. What separates the Mk VI from more common surplus revolvers is originality. Many were later modified to fire 45 ACP with half-moon clips, a change that often compromised performance and long-term value. Those still chambered in 455 and in clean mechanical condition fetch significant attention among collectors. Wartime markings, matching serial numbers, and unshaved cylinders add layers of authenticity and rarity. The Webley Mk VI occupies a space in the revolver world where practicality meets pedigree. As a fighting handgun, it proved itself in some of the nastiest conditions ever faced. As a collectible, it captures a unique moment in British industrial design and imperial history. Its legacy sits not on a showroom pedestal, but in the battered leather holsters and faded field journals of those who depended on it. That staying power you don't let go of lightly. When it comes to precision revolvers built with mechanical pride and extreme discipline, the Korth Combat stands in a category that defies mass-market convention. German engineering took the revolver platform and transformed it into a hand-tuned machine with zero tolerance for mediocrity. This revolver wasn't built for volume or speed of production. It was crafted to showcase technical mastery, performance consistency, and custom-level fitment straight from the factory. Equipped with a fully adjustable roller-bearing trigger system, high-grade steel internals, and some of the finest machining tolerances in the firearm industry, the Korth Combat feels more like a mechanical timepiece than a weapon. Its cylinder rotates with engineered resistance, the lockup snaps with flawless alignment, and the trigger pull, whether in single or double action, responds with surgical clarity. Even the smallest parts, including the yoke, extractor, and firing pin assembly, reflect a level of finishing rarely found outside custom shops. Every edge is chamfered, every surface feels intentional. Korth revolvers have always been produced in extremely limited numbers. Early production runs were often semi-custom by nature, allowing buyers to spec details such as barrel length, grips, sights, and finishes. Over time, these custom configurations have become signature traits, driving collector interest even higher. Prices on these guns remain stable for a reason. They deliver consistency without cutting corners. Demand has increased, availability has shrunk, and the few examples that surface usually don't last long in the wild. The Korth Combat was created with a focus far removed from market fads or commercial mass production. Every element reflects a dedication to elite gunsmithing that secures its place among the finest revolvers ever built. Its design speaks with precision, not promotion. Introduced in the twilight years of the flintlock era, the Colt Walker redefined what a sidearm could do on the battlefield. Designed in collaboration with Texas Ranger Captain Samuel H. Walker and produced in 1847, this massive .44 caliber black powder revolver brought raw firepower and frontier practicality into a single 6-shot platform. At the time, it delivered more stopping power than some rifles in service. Weighing nearly 4.5 pounds loaded, the Walker was built for saddle holsters, not belts. Its size wasn't a design flaw. It was a statement of intent. Each chamber packed a full 60 grains of black powder, enough to drop a horse or punch through cavalry armor. The loading lever would sometimes drop under recoil. But that didn't stop the pistol from becoming a battlefield icon. Only 100 were made originally, about 1,000 for military contracts and 100 for civilians. Surviving examples are scarce, and condition varies wildly. The value of these revolvers today lies not only in their age, but in the legends they helped write across early American military history. Most existing models are in private collections, and some rest behind museum glass. The Colt Walker is a cornerstone in the evolution of the revolver. It combines historical magnitude, rarity, and mechanical curiosity in one massive steel frame. A genuine Colt Walker holds unmatched status among military revolvers, combining innovation, scale, and battlefield legacy into one historical artifact. Few revolvers carry this level of cultural and technological weight with them. Revolvers with iconic profiles often trace their origins to the Colt Single Action Army. First produced in 1873, this legendary six-shooter became synonymous with the American West, law enforcement, and military service. The revolver's mechanical simplicity and rugged dependability helped it carve a permanent place in history books, and the first-generation models remain prized for their unmatched significance and scarcity. The first-generation SAA was produced from 1873 to 1940 and came in a wide range of calibers, barrel lengths, and configurations. Among the most coveted are variants like the Buntline Special, the Bisley Model, and the Sheriff's Model, each offering a different take on the core platform. The Buntline, with its long barrel and unique visual presence, remains especially valuable among collectors seeking early factory custom revolvers. Original finishes, such as case-hardened frames and deep Colt bluing, often survived only in part, making fully intact examples even more desirable. Matching serial numbers, original grips, and factory documentation elevate these revolvers to the upper tier of collector status. Factory letter verification adds both historical context and market value. Beyond its collectability, the Single Action Army embodies the transition from percussion arms to reliable metallic cartridge firearms. It served across multiple wars, frontier outposts, and state capitals, becoming a symbol of American expansion and industrial power. Revolvers from this era continue to appreciate in value as availability shrinks and demand from collectors remains strong. The first-generation SAA delivers legacy, balance, and undeniable presence in any serious collection. The introduction of the registered Magnum in 1935 marked a turning point in revolver development. This model launched the .357 Magnum cartridge and simultaneously introduced a new class of sidearms built for high pressure, custom precision, and exact tolerances. Smith & Wesson offered buyers an unprecedented level of customization, from barrel lengths and sight options to grips and triggers, all serialized and registered to the original purchaser. Each revolver was accompanied by a certificate of authenticity and logged in the company's records. These details, along with factory-fitted upgrades, created a platform that was as much a tailored tool as it was a production firearm. The fit and finish reflect the high standards of Depression-era craftsmanship, with polished bluing, precision-machined internals, and hand-tuned actions that still impress today. Fewer than 5,000 registered Magnums were produced before the outbreak of World War II. As military contracts ramped up, civilian production halted, and the model transitioned into the standard .357 Magnum line without the same registry treatment. This shift makes early registered models incredibly desirable. Examples with matching certificates, original boxes, and correct components bring top dollar among collectors and institutions. The registered Magnum captures a moment when revolver engineering and American industrial pride reached peak refinement. Production focused on discerning users who valued elite-level construction, mechanical excellence, and ballistic confidence in every detail. These revolvers remain some of the most respected, studied, and protected examples of pre-war handgun excellence. Among revolvers celebrated for both mechanical precision and visual elegance, the original Colt Python reigns with unmatched presence. First introduced in 1955 and chambered in .357 Magnum, the Python earned a reputation not through hype, but through performance that consistently set the standard for double-action revolvers. Built on Colt's large I-frame, the early production models delivered an extraordinary blend of balance, accuracy, and mechanical tightness that turned heads from the start. The Python's barrel featured a full underlug and ventilated rib, both contributing to improved control and heat dissipation. More than just aesthetics, these features helped shooters maintain faster follow-ups and greater consistency across strings of fire. The trigger system was hand-fitted, with legendary smoothness that still defines the high mark for factory double-action revolvers. Timing at lockup and cylinder rotation all operated with the kind of precision rarely seen on mass-produced sidearms. Early models from the 1950s through the 1970s displayed Colt's royal blue finish, deep, mirror-like, and labor-intensive. That finish alone has become a benchmark for collectors and a clear indicator of era and quality. Later production runs carried some of the same design, but the craftsmanship slowly shifted as Colt adjusted to manufacturing demands. The pre-2005 originals remain the most sought after, particularly the 4-inch and 6-inch barrel variants. Colt Pythons have reached a status beyond their technical specs. They represent the final chapter of a time when revolvers were built like heirlooms, not just tools. Their value continues to rise not because they are rare, but because they were made right the first time, and serious collectors know exactly what that means. If those 10 revolvers were any more legendary, they'd be carved into Mount Rushmore with a blued steel chisel and walnut hammer. Each of these revolvers stands as a monument to design, craftsmanship, and a level of mechanical pride that outclasses anything churned out for the masses. Collectors who own them preserve more than steel. They protect the legacy of a time when wheel guns defined reliability, precision, and pride in engineering. Each one is a snapshot of when wheel guns ruled the world, and quality wasn't optional. From hand-fitted triggers to deep-cut rifling, they were built to do more than shoot. They were built to outlast the man holding them. Letting one of these go carries a weight most price tags can't measure. Once it leaves your hands, reclaiming it often means chasing rarity, reputation, and a far bigger investment. Keep them tuned, keep them clean, brag about them in gun shops and online forums. Let the young bucks show off their optics and gadgets, because while they're chasing trends, you're holding on to the blueprints of what worked before anyone needed rails or batteries. And if someone in your family ever thinks about turning a Webley or Python into quick cash, make sure they know some things aren't for sale. Some things stay in the family, or else you're haunting them with every missed shot and stripped screw. And that's a wrap. Close the safe like it's a vault full of truth.